And I'm live again with an academy, right? I start with this session. So how have all of you been? कैसा चल? Are you guys preparing for the mains now? All right, so let's begin now. Myself, Venkatesh, and I am a verified educator on an academy. And I'm here to take a session on just basic, guidelines in terms of for a new person, for a new aspirant, that how do they decide how to take up the optional subject, right? Because that is one of the most confusing aspect. Because general studies is something which everyone knows. The course is uniform for everyone, but there are so many subjects which are there about the option subject, and this it is so confusing at times that how do we choose an optional subject. So I'll not be mentioning that which optional subject you should say, because that is your own choice at the end, but I'll be giving you certain guidelines, a certain pointer which you should check before deciding on to what kind of option subject you want to opt for. All right. So generally, one of the most important aspects is that whether you should take up a subject which is your own your own domain in which you had graduated in, or would you want to take another subject altogether, right? So in terms of that, you need to make an assessment, you need to make a judgment whether the graduation subject which you take, you are good at it or not, right? This is generally for the kind of people who are engineers or are from the science background, because the dilemma generally is that whether should I take a optional subject from the domain of humanities, such as political science, public administration, geography, right? Or should I take my electrical engineering or civil engineering or my physics, chemistry, maths? So here the question lies that whether you are good in your own domain. If you are, then you should take the subject. If you think that you can excel very well, right, then you can take up that subject, because then it gives you a good amount of chance to hone your skills in the subject which you have studied for maybe 3 years or 4 years, and then build upon that and give the mains examination using that subject. But if you think that you're weak in that subject, then there is hardly any question there. You can take up a new subject which will actually help you also in your general studies. Like for example, you have political science, you have geography, you have public administration, right? So these subjects will help you in your general studies as well. Therefore, when you are going to study a new subject altogether, it could be a subject which you have already studied before, but you are not good at it, then you may actually would want to take up the a new subject which you can excel in, right? So then you can take up any of these humanities subject and start studying that from scratch itself. All right. Then another aspect is that if you see the about choosing the optional subject, go we have the 66th annual report on UPSC available on the public domain. Check out the various percentages, the various number of people who are getting selected from a particular optional subject, right? I just have that open with me right now. So if you see that, for example, we haven't someone talked about, I think, law optional. So law actually happens to a very good option. Very selected people would be there from law who would want to go to UPSC, and when they do, the percentages of selection is very high. It's around 17% of selection from around 235 people. 40 people got selected after the mains level in the law optional, right? If we compare that, say, for with your mechanical engineering, there were 111 people who got shortlisted, and out of which eventually only 7 people made it into the next round. So you can understand it's the percentage is low, the number of people is also low. So when I say the fact that if you're good at mechanical engineering, then take it, it means that that the number of selections are actually very less, and you need to be in those top 7, top 6, top 5 people to make it through. All right, so that is why and obviously it also goes both ways. Something like how the market functions, something how economy functions with sentiment. That when the general public, when the aspirant think that a particular subject is is bad, people would and they start not taking it, then the ratio, the percentage of selection also reduces. So that aspect is also there. So if you're good at a subject, do take the subject, whatever be the percentages. That is something which I would suggest, right? One of my very good friends, he happened to have cleared the examination with electrical engineering, though it is one of the low rated in terms of the selection ratios, right? So then we talked about this. Then yeah, geography someone talked about. So geography happens to be one of the most sought after optional. The maximum number of people sat in geography, around 3,500 people select were shortlisted from geography, and they sat for geography basically. And eventually 255 went on to to the interview level. So you can understand that the percentage is very good. 7% is a good percentage, and the number of selections is good. But the caveat attached is an important fact that we generally tend to follow the crowd, thinking that geography is a good option because there are so many number of selections. You can also see that the percentage is 7%. So there were 93% people who did not get through with the same optional. So though the number of success stories are more in say geography than in civil engineering, you cannot make an assessment with just the number of percentages, because that is what I wanted to make clear, that do not go by the percentages or the perception. Go by what you are good at. And that is what actually will, because at the end of the day, selections are happening in any of the subjects, right? It's not that the selections are not happening, but if you're good at a subject, go for it. And if you are not good at a subject which you are having graduation in, then you can take up any subject based on various parameters, right? What you try to do is that if you're trying to, for example, geography, political science, public administration, read the basic texts before making a judgment, and the one in which you are most comfortable with, you are better able to understand, take that as an option. One piece of advice which I would give is that, once you have opted for one option, do not deviate from that, thinking that यार वो option ले लिया होता तो better होता, right? Though there are cases that the optional has not worked out for some people, and then they change the option later on to so that is a completely different story, and that is very rare of the rare cases. But the fact remains that if you have at least started off with an option, commit to it, rather than deviating. Maybe 2 months down the line you say, okay, now let me change the topic. In that, none of the optional can actually help you in getting through. So once you take an optional, commit to it, right? Then there were questions with regards to uh, there were, I think, a couple of questions. Can you just repeat the question? I missed about. Yeah, about anthropology. So if you talk about anthropology, it's a good optional, because the percentage is 11% success rate, around in 619 people, 68 people got selected to interview level. So anthropology is a good optional. The subject is very concise. There is no much involvement of your current affairs as such. So it is a very very static course. जितना कोर्स है उतना पढ़ के जाओगे, आपके नंबर, अगर आप अच्छा कर रहे हो तो आपके नंबर आ जाएंगे, right? And so it's a good option, it's a very good option anthropology. But अब एक इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है जो आप सब पूछ रहे हैं, पॉलिटिकल साइंस, एंथ्रोपोलॉजी, हिस्ट्री, आपके जो सब्जेक्ट है, पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन स्पेशली. सो आपको एक चीज और चेक करनी पड़ेगी कि व्हेन यू टेकिंग अ ह्यूमैनिटीज सब्जेक्ट, योर इंग्लिश हैज टू बी डिसेंट इनफ, राइट? जितने लोग भी आपको कहें कि इंग्लिश मैटर नहीं करती है, इंग्लिश मैटर नहीं करती है आपके साइंस सब्जेक्ट्स में, इंग्लिश मैटर नहीं करती है आपके टेक्निकल सब्जेक्ट्स में, बट इन दी ह्यूमैनिटीज सब्जेक्ट्स इंग्लिश मैटर करेगी. इफ यू आर एबल टू राइट फेयरली वेल, वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट फ्लारी vocabulary, we're not talking about good English in terms of good writing in concise way, writing grammatically correct, using your language to make your point clear. That is a common thread across subjects. क्योंकि बहुत सारे, I remember because my option was public administration, people around me who took public administration as a subject, they did not have good English, and they were not able to cope up with the English, about with answer writing at all, right? So judge your English as well, and then take an option. So it's not only about knowing the subject, it's also about the art of answer writing. Which option is best for mechanical engineering? So yeah, mechanical engineering is an optional itself. So if you are committing to mechanical engineering, do it's a good optional if you're good at it, right? So I think that is largely what I wanted to talk about in terms of how you can think about. Do refer to the UPSC annual report. Do you have any queries from your end which you would like to be addressed to? History optional. See, history optional, I do not have in particular depth knowledge about what books and stuff to read from there. But as I've already mentioned, you need to be have a good in-depth knowledge from the various books which are there, and have to have a good writing practice, and therefore good English as well in that regard. Yeah, see, polity is a very good optional. Political science and international relations is a very good optional. The success rate this year round was a bit on a lower side, around 6.5%. But it is something which fluctuates generally. किसी साल कम होता है, किसी से ज़्यादा होता है, but it's a pretty good optional. Chemistry, physics, mathematics are also good options. Mathematics happens to be surprisingly doing even better. If you see around the 350 people who wrote in your mathematics, there was a 10% success rate there, right? So there were 35 people who got selected to the interview level. So it is pretty good. See, literature is something which is awesome, right? If you take like literature of Arabic language, out of 3 people, 2 people get selected, so it's a 66% success rate. Bengali language, out of 3, 1 people get selected, so it is a 33% success rate. Manipuri language, so there are these very rarely used languages in terms of normal parlance. They have a very good percent success rate because it's generally said. English literature, Marathi literature, all these have varied. So see, Sindh, Odia, and these are the worst performing. Then your Punjabi language doing ठीक है, ठीक ठाक करता है. English is doing well actually. If you see 33 people, 3 get selected. So the number is very less, but so again, if you're good at English, go for it, right? Because there are two things. If you are an average student, it would generally be good if you are taking a subject which has more number of people sitting for it. I mean above average student, because the number of selections are more also, right? See, for example, if there's geography 3,500 people, you're an above average student, you may happen to come up in those 250 students who get selected, right? There's more probability of you getting selected if you're an above average student. But if you are choosing a subject which very less people are sitting for, you need to be in the top 3, top 4, top 5, top 6. Then if even if you are just above average, you may not make it through. So that is how you actually weigh that what you take as an option, right? Mm. Success rate for chemistry success rate is 7%. So around 100 people, around 7% people got selected to the interview level. So the percentage is good. The numbers are fairly good in terms of the number of people sitting. So if you're good at it, go for it. ठीक है. So यही रहता है आपके कन्नड़ा लिटरेचर का. आपका पूछ रहे हो कन्नड़ा लिटरेचर. Let me just check it out. Tamil is pretty good. 14% is Tamil. Gujarati is around 14% again. Marathi is 11%. Kannada, I guess 10%. It's also pretty good then. Yeah, see, if you're taking mechanical engineering, right? If you are from mechanical engineering background, that is a question which was asked, right? From mechanical engineering background, so engineering के लिए generally geography happens to be a good optional. Any person who is from an engineering background, geography happens to be a semi-technical, semi-humanities optional. Therefore, it becomes good to understand. So you can take up geography if you like. See, physics का success rate is again good. It's 9.3%. 151 people may say 114 people got selected. So it is pretty good. So you'll see a engineering subjects हो या आपके science subjects हो, a common thread would be that the number of selections are less because people itself are sitting less. See, geography का मैंने बताया, geography का success rate has been low, but आपका geography का success rate actually is 7.3%, which is average, but the number of selection are more because the most number of people are sitting in geography. PubAd का 5.3% है, 2,800 में से 151 people got selected. So that is there. All right. So I think that would be it. I hope that that helps you in terms of making a decision, because this is the right time to make a decision. अभी सारे coaching institutes के आपके optional के चल रहे होंगे classes के admissions. This is the right time to commit to an optional. Right. Thank you so much.